From travel policies to safety concerns, COVID-19 related labor issues continue for ag employers this harvest season. Chicago attorney Scott Cruz joins us now to review some related best practices. Scott, thank you for being with us. Now, how do you recommend ag employers address a positive COVID test or an employee who is exhibiting symptoms consistent with COVID?
Sure. So the approach is very similar regardless of what industry you're in, quite frankly. But the best practice is this. First, that employee, once he or she advises that he or she is tested positive for COVID, they are immediately instructed to self-quarantine for the appropriate time period. That employee should not be permitted to return back to work until he or she presents the employer with at least one negative COVID test. So that's the first step. The second is, of course, dealing with contact tracing. And we need to determine from the employee, who did you come in close contact with, for instance, in the past 2 days or since your initial onset of symptoms. We get that information from the employee. We contact those other employees who may have come in close contact with that individual. We don't disclose the name of the individual who tested positive, but we tell the other employees that a coworker of yours tested positive. He or she advised that you may have come in close contact with him or her. We're advising you to contact your healthcare provider, and those employees should be instructed to self-quarantine for a period of not less than 14 days.
Now, what if you can't shut down to conduct a proper cleaning until the end of the day?
So, in fact, what CDC recommends here is that in terms of shutting down, we don't have to necessarily shut down the entire operation. What CDC recommends is that look to see, for example, if it's a particular piece of machinery. Well, if that individual used that particular piece of machinery, that should be shut down. And you wait until the CDC recommends at least 24 hours before you clean and disinfect it. But that's not going to be applicable for many different operations. Saying, hey, we can't wait 24 hours. So CDC says clean it as long as wait as long as you can until you're able to clean that equipment. So to the extent I tell you right now I have COVID, I was using this piece of machinery, that particular piece of machinery should not be used, and then wait as long as you can until you clean and disinfect. You don't have to completely shut down the entire operation, though. Not unless, for example, I was at different areas, or that there is a need, particularly if there's a mass outbreak, then you need to shut down the entire operation. But if not, you have to figure out where I was, what machines I were using. Those should be shut down.
Right, got to be able to retrace those steps, so to speak. Now, let's say the employee's child's school is closed and they request off, but they're also essential to that ag operation. What do you recommend there?
Sure. Yeah, and that's become the big question now for many employers. So putting aside the fact of whether or not the employee is essential, if he or she is eligible for paid leave under Families First, we're talking about the Emergency Paid Sick Leave Act and or the Emergency Family Medical Leave Expansion Act, he or she is entitled to that paid leave. Companies, employers cannot say, unfortunately, you are an essential employee. We are not going to provide you with this leave. There's one caveat to this and one exception, and that is for businesses who have less than 50 employees. If you have less than 50 employees and an employee does request paid leave for a school or daycare-related reason, and in that situation, the employer has an argument to say, Scott, in fact, is an essential employee. He's the only one who knows how to work this particular piece of machinery. If he is out for 12 weeks, essentially we won't be operating. Even if I am eligible for leave in that situation, because I am essential, the employer can say, Scott, unfortunately, we're going to deny your request. But it is important to note that is only available for employers who have 50 or fewer employees and if the employee requests leave for school or daycare-related reasons.
Wow, so much to consider in all of these different scenarios. That's Chicago-based labor and employment attorney Scott Cruz. We appreciate you joining us on this Tuesday.